My sister and I, my brother, we were brought up on Cherry Street in Glens Falls in this home that we're sitting in right now, which I still live in. My parents came from Italy. The old saying is they came over on the boat, which they did. My dad worked at Glens Falls Cement Company. My mom worked at Troy Guild. She was a shirt maker.
Oh, and she helped out, she donated, helped out in the cafeteria with the kids.
At St. Mary,
at St. Mary's for years and years. As a matter of fact, they dedicated the yearbook to her one year.
Yeah.
And all the kids from kindergarten right straight up would come in there. And if she saw they didn't have money, or she'd look,
they'd forget their money for lunch.
They'd forget their money. She'd say, "Oh, don't worry."
Yeah,
she'd go in the kitchen and she'd say, "Get that little boy. I give you the money. I pay for it." She was amazing. And my dad, he would do anything for anybody. Anybody.
Oh, yeah.
He would take the shirt off his back and give it to you. He would help anybody.
That's why my brother's the way he is today, because my parents were that
How
way.
can you help it?
It was very dedicated, to St. Mary's. Even as a kid, as an altar boy, he was always at church. He always was looking for things to do in the church to help. He was always at the convent with the nuns, getting his piano lessons, and he would do different things there for them, run errands for them.
But he never gave us an inkling, did he, Angela, that he wanted to be a priest. Right up until he almost graduated.
Yeah. My parents were so proud, so proud. The day he was ordained, it was on a Saturday. Of course, we were at the cathedral and, for the ordination, and we were right there up front. It was just a feeling that you can't explain.
No. And we cried.
And cried, yeah.
Through the whole thing, cried.
His first assignment was at St. Joseph in Arbor Hill. He was there for almost 2 years. And we used to go there and visit him, and we were a little nervous. Arbor Hill isn't the best part of Albany. My mother used to worry about him all the time, but he was dedicated there from day one.
He loved it.
And that was at the height of the civil rights movement. And he and I met when he received that assignment, and we worked very closely together. And I was impressed immediately by his wonderful sense of empathy and compassion for the poor, and his dedication and commitment to do whatever he could to turn their lives around.
And they loved him. They just loved him right away. I mean, it didn't matter whether they were homeless or who they were. I mean, they just loved him, and he was right there for each and every one of them, day or night, just like he is now. Day or night, his parishioners are first.
I think he felt fortunate in his life. My parents gave us everything that they could afford to give us. We had a very good life. Their children, me and my sister and my brother, came first in their lives. And my brother, I think, always felt like God had given him everything. And he always, since I can remember when he was ordained, he always wanted to help people.
In 1988, when there were rising level of crack-addicted mothers giving birth to their children in New York City, as well as the newness of the HIV/AIDS virus, Father Farano and I went down to the Harlem Hospital because we heard that there were children really being literally warehoused in the hospital, especially with HIV/AIDS. So on the way back to Albany that day, Father Farano says, we don't want to be one of those people who go down and look and say, this is a terrible problem, but what can we do? He says, we have to do something. Well, we knew there were people here in the Albany diocese who would respond, and they did. And we placed over 150 children in our area who were crack-addicted children who went into foster care. Again, because of the HIV/AIDS and the newness in the treatment of children who were positive, there was a hesitancy to have children go right into to live with a family. So he opens the first residence in New York State for children who were HIV positive. He became a constant volunteer. He was there whenever his office was right across the street here at the Pastoral Center. He would go over at lunchtime, later in the evening, rock the children, and before they went to sleep, tell them stories. It was not unusual to go in and see him on the floor playing a game with some of the children. These were infants and toddlers, and so it was much more of a mission for him, and it wasn't a matter of a real estate deal and let's get this program going and backing away. He became very integrated in it.
I think Father Farano always had the heart of a pastor, and while he was willing to do administrative tasks because that is what the bishop asked of him, he always really wanted to be involved in day-to-day parish life. And after a number of years of that type of administrative responsibility, he came to me and said, I really would like to become a pastor.
I remember the day he came here. It was right after Christmas, and he told my mom and I, my dad had passed away a couple months before that he was leaving the diocesan office as chancellor, that St. Pius of Loudonville had become available, and he went to the bishop and asked for the parish. He said it was time to do what he became a priest for. It was time to serve the people.
The peace and grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you always. Coming together,
I think he brings to all of us a sense of commitment, not just to the parish and to the school, but to the whole family of St. Pius X. Father will put himself out anytime to bring comfort, to bring Christ to his family, to his parishioners. He has a remarkable capacity for embracing his own ministry as priest and to bringing that Christ to all of us.
It's absolutely miraculous that that parish would lay down their best garment in the mud for him if it came to it. And I watched that happen over those years, the slow, steady building of trust and support that came from both sides. He's very, very deeply loved in that parish and absolutely respected by everyone.
There's a presence about him, a compassionate presence that you feel that no matter what it is, he's always present with you and worried about you and consoles you and will really work with you to help you in any way that he can. He's really just the model of what to me, what a priest should be.
My cousin was here at the time from Italy, and she was watching she used to love to watch the news here, even though she didn't quite understand it. And she yelled to me, she was yelling to me, I was in the kitchen, and she was in the family room. My brother was on TV standing next to an airplane. And that's how we found out about it. He didn't even tell us.
No, he doesn't brag, he doesn't tell us nothing. We hear.
We hear.
Or we read it in the paper.
Oh, it's nothing. Everything is.
Oh yeah, I'll say to him, how come you didn't tell us? What for? It's nothing.
I was the chief executive officer at the airport when Father Farano was appointed as chairperson of the board. And he led us through 8 years of activity, and the results are probably one of the finest airports in the United States of America. And he carries much of the responsibility for that having been done.
And I believe they were looking for someone who would be a healer and reconciler, someone who would be acceptable to all segments within the community to serve in that capacity. And that's precisely the role he filled. He was a person that was able to sit down, hear different perspectives, different viewpoints from community leaders and political leaders, the business community. And then he was able to bring all the various perspectives into a harmonious vision, and he was able to work to implement that vision.
Father Farano did one thing that lifted us above all of the other problems of the day, and that was that everything was going to be done right and was going to be done for the right reasons. His bottom line was, we're going to do the right thing. And we did the right thing, and I think that's why, in large measure, Father Mike Farano is responsible for the great success we enjoyed at the Albany International Airport.
As you get off I-90, when you cross the Hudson River coming east, or coming west rather, there's a big sign that says Arbor Hill left, Loudonville right. Father Farano began his priestly ministry in Arbor Hill, working with the poorest of the poor. And when you go to Loudonville, you're working with people who are middle to upper middle class and some very wealthy people. But Father Farano's approach has always been the same. And whether it's working with a teenage youngster at St. Joseph's School, or a youngster in a grammar school at St. Pius, or a banker or a lawyer that's in his parish, he's always had the same approach. He just accepts them where they are and walks with them wherever they need to go.
Whenever he came through the airport, he'd always take time to say hello to the janitor, to the custodian, to the building guard, always to the lowest salaried people, to ensure that they understood that they had an advocate in Father Mike Farano.
He's a great blend, really. He's a man of intellectual capability and of great administrative skills, but he blends with that pastoral sensitivity. When you read about him in the paper, it strikes you about his skills and his accomplishments, but when you meet him in person, you just think, that's a good guy. That's a guy I like being with.
He's like a symbol in this family. It's like, when anything goes wrong, no matter who it is, you know, we got to call Uncle Mike, or we got to call Michael, or you know, it's the first. He's the first on everybody's mind.
He's just been a big part of my life since I can remember. You know, I was raised by a single mom. You know, I had two younger brothers and a younger sister. He really was my father growing up, because he was always there for me. My childhood, when I was young, my teenage years, you know, which were a little rough at times, and even in my 20s, he was always there. And it's still like that today. You know, like I said earlier, he's still Uncle Mike, you know. But today, he's still all those things, but today he's my best friend.
There's such a caring presence about him, and it's not about him, it's about who's ever in front of him. It's not about getting, you know, awards or things like that. It's about the day-to-day stuff that he does that a lot of people don't see, but some of us who work with him do. You know, it's consoling people, it's you know, working with families when it's a funeral, the celebrations of First Communion, confirmation, you know, really just being that presence there. And I think that's what, to me, at least shows me what a priest is.
We're all better because of who he is. I really do mean that. We are all better because of him.
When I think of Father Mike Farano, I think of, he's the kind of individual Jesus Christ had in mind for all of us.
It's just that person in your life, you know, and that I hope everybody has at least one Uncle Mike in their life, because he's gotten me through the littlest problem to, you know, the death of my son. You know, I mean, you asked me earlier, you know, do I talk to Uncle Mike or do I talk to a priest? I think everybody talks to Uncle Mike. I don't think anybody talks to a priest. They talk to Uncle Mike. They just call him Father Farano.